Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think we will wait, give a couple of minutes for people to join. I see people joining, so we will give a couple more and then we will start. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another event hosted by Product Tank Tauranga. Um, for all of who are new to this event, Product Tank is a global network of meetups, and it provides us an opportunity for product professionals, product enthusiasts to exchange ideas and experience about product design, management, your product craft, your user experience, and everything which gets us all excited. My name is Bharat. I work as a product owner with Tauranga City Council. And today, my co host, also the co owner of Product Tank Tauranga, is here with me, Ritika. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Bharat. Good afternoon, everyone. Very excited to be here. I'm Ritika and I bring passion for innovation and relentless drive to the world of product management. With 11 years of experience under my belt, I've had the opportunity to deep dive into fascinating realm of product. But let me share a small. Uh, am I not audible? Uh, okay. Yeah, I think I over to you, Bharat. There's some issue. I think. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Ritika. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So this meetup will be recorded, and you can find this on Mind the Product YouTube channel. All participants on the call will be on mute, and the only way to contribute to the call will be via chat. Ritika is going to introduce the topic, get all the juices flowing for the day. I know it's afternoon, and then also introduce a very special guest speaker. And in the end, we're going to go through some Q&A sessions. Over to you, Ritika.
Thank you, Bharat. Let's talk about the topic for the day, power of data. So have you ever wondered how companies like Amazon, Google, or Netflix, they exactly know what we want before we even realize it, thanks to the power of product analytics? And a small glimpse into the topic, especially in this ever evolving landscape of digital world. Data has become lifeblood of successful businesses. It has power to drive innovation, to drive business decision making, to transform the way people create products, people market products, and actually they optimize products. So yeah, that's why we have exactly gathered here to talk about data, power like product analytics. And I think companies that effectively harness this power, they are like, they go to the whole new level of understanding their customers, and hence they create better products, better user experiences, and unparalleled growth. So yeah, without a further ado, I will introduce our guest speaker, Bianca. Bianca is has a 20 years of work experience working with different digital uh, organizations. She is true guru, leveraging the power of data. She knows it all. She knows how to drive success out of it. So yeah, over to you, Bianca. Let's deep dive into the power of data and how it helps different products across the world.
Hello. Hi. Cool. Getting used to this new technology. So let me see how I can share my presentation with you today. One sec. So. Excellent. Does this work?
I
Awesome.
think yes.
Great. And then I just need to do this. So, kia ora, nā mai haramai, kia koto I tēnei wā, nā mihi kia koto, ko Bianca taku ingoa, tēnā koto katoa. So welcome and thank you everyone for spending your lunchtime with me and with us today. And yeah, thanks Ritika and Bharat for inviting me to talk about my second favorite product topic, product analytics and how to really make data-driven decisions. I don't have a whole lot of slides, so I won't be racing through them, so you can hopefully enjoy your lunch or have a coffee. Don't need to constantly stare at the screen, you won't miss anything. And yes, we'll have a question session at the end, so hopefully there's a way for you to type and share your questions as I go along. If there's anything super urgent, maybe there's a way to stop and answer the question then as well. So we always start with the why. And the question here is, why do we need product analytics? Now, for those of you who've been around for a little bit longer, you might remember the big hype of big data. That was almost as big as the AI hype currently. But quite a few years ago now, big data came around. Everyone was talking about the power of data, data's the new oil, and so on. And now we have all of this data, but the data insights are the real bottleneck. So data can tell you what is happening, but it can't tell you why it's happening. And as product people, we have a lot of questions. So we want to know, who are our customers? Who are my most valuable customers? What do these customers do when they're engaging with my product, my service? Who are the customers who churn? Why do they churn? What do they do before they churn? What can I do to prevent it? Who are my power users? What are the problems that they're solving? I mean, the list is endless, and we want answers to these questions. So typically, we also have some business goals, and I think this applies across the board, no matter if private or public sector. There's some kind of desire to either improve the conversion of people, or the number of people adopting your product or service, or the retention, keeping them engaged and keeping them coming back. And of course, we also want to measure the success of us launching a new feature or product, or making some improvements, some optimizations on our existing offering. And ideally, we want to have those insights real time and not as like a weekly or monthly report that somebody from BI sends over when it's pretty much too late to act on it. So broadly generalizing, I think here are the things that as product managers, we want to work towards. So shut down the feature factory. Nobody wants to work in a feature factory. Instead, we really want to work on the highest value initiative for our customers. We want to launch something that everyone will love. I think that broadly applies. But there's these secondary goals as well, where we want to make sure that the initiative that we're working on has buy-in from everyone in the team who's working on delivering it, but also from the executive, the leadership team, that they believe that we're making the best bet here by working on this initiative. Now, organizations that are already a little bit more mature with their analytics, they are working towards personalization of customer experience. And that's when you already have an understanding of who your customers are. You want to guide them towards different types of journeys. You want to provide different types of resources depending on what they specifically need. And ultimately, we all want to grow a business or grow our customer retention again, no matter if we're in the public sector or we're in the private sector. Here's a definition that I really liked, and I should have taken a note of who I'm quoting this from, so apologies for that. But it goes, product analytics is a way to tell a story about how people are using your product and service so that you can understand how to improve their experience and positively impact your business metrics. So a lot of parts to kind of unpack and go through in the next half hour or so. And just to note, because I don't know all of you on the call here, so there is, of course, a product analyst role already. Product analytics as a field is new, but there are product analysts, and I don't want to be misrepresenting the work of people who are already working in these roles. They might be doing things differently. This talk is more aimed at general product managers who want to get into product analytics. So it's a little bit more introductory, and I'm looking forward to some feedback from people who might be more experienced in the field later on. Don't worry if you're completely new to product analytics, you're in pretty good company. I saw a report that Gainsight did just last year. So they did a survey with SaaS businesses that already have a product-led growth strategy, and even most of them are not effectively tracking their product metrics just yet. So it is very new, it is very emerging, and we all want to learn a little bit more about how to get started there and how to get some benefits, and also what it is. So who am I to talk to you about this? I have indeed started in digital technology in 1999, and so long before the big data hype. In fact, in the very first big hype phase of the internet. So the first big internet bubble. It's a great time to be starting. And I call myself a natural born product manager because I became a product manager without knowing what that was. So I kind of naturally happened upon the role. And it was only a couple of years later that I realized this is what it's called. And then I learned as I went along. I do want to claim the cliche German efficiency to some extent. I did grow up in Germany. I also did my PhD in AI, but don't worry, no ChatGPT or any other exploitative AI was used for creating this presentation. This is genuine knowledge by myself. And the most important thing is I always want to know why and dig a little bit deeper and understand what's going on. Now, one more caveat here, or just thing to point out, I try to avoid the term user. So instead, I often say customer, and I just want to make sure that you don't get confused by this. This includes everyone who's interacting with your product or service, no matter if they're paying for it or not. A customer for me is everyone who we're trying to serve. Oh my God, I made a pyramid. It's the first pyramid I ever made, but I really wanted to show how data-driven decision-making kind of works step by step, because the data will rarely ever just magically surface this insight that you never thought you were looking for and it's going to change your business and solve everything. So you have to build this pyramid to be able to get those insights consistently and continuously. And so, of course, the foundation starts with your customer actions and behavior. And then I probably don't have like a, anyway, you can see the pyramid. I don't have a pointer, but you'll see it there. The base level is the customer actions and behavior, some of which you can track. So the next level on is already a little bit smaller because we have a lot of data, but we don't have everything, and that's probably good. But yeah, some of which you can track. From that data that you're tracking, you want to calculate some metrics that are specific to your business, the ones that make sense, the ones that you need to then derive some insights or make some hypotheses about your customer behavior that you can test with experiments before ultimately making a decision that should be leading to improving your business goals. So that's really what we mean with data-driven decision-making. You can see the strategy for product analytics. It goes from the foundation layer to the top. But quite often what is happening is that we actually start with the assumption that we have about our customers, about the market, about our products, and then we find the data to support that assumption. Now, product analytics strategy is about letting the data tell you what your customers want and not the other way around. Now, how do we get started with product analytics? And it isn't an easy topic, and there's a lot to it. There's obviously going to be some differences depending on the size and the maturity of your organization, the type of industry that you're in, the product or service that you're providing. But I think broadly, these are the areas that you want to be looking into and start understanding a little bit more about. And I've tried to come up with some kind of generally applicable guidance in there. So let's go through these. People, of course, is always the most important. If you don't have the people, no analytics will save you. So you want to make sure that product analytics, if not a dedicated role, hardly any organizations have the luxury of a dedicated product analyst, but if not a dedicated role, it's a dedicated function. It is somebody's specific responsibility, not a tag on for the already really long list of product management responsibilities, because you want to make sure that it happens consistently and continuously, and not, like a day before launching the feature, oh my God, we need some metrics. What are we tracking? So a dedicated function that is also as embedded into your product and delivery teams as possible. So at the moment, many organizations will have a BI team or a data science team, and they're completely separate from the product organization or even the engineering team. They have all the data, they know what to do with the data or what can be done with the data, but they don't know the questions to ask. Then there's the product folks, and they have all the questions, but they don't know which of those can be easily answered and what's super complex, and how to ask the question so you can get the answer from the data. And so it's a huge gap. And with product analytics, we want to close that gap. We want to move that function as closely as possible into the product teams. Second, data, of course. Obviously, we need data. And typically, we already have quite a bit, unless you're in a very early stage, pre-launch type of business. You'll have some data. The marketing folks will have some Google Analytics data, some other tracking data. There's going to be financial data, business metrics being tracked for sure, and there might be other pockets of data across the organization. But if you want to do product analytics effectively, and remembering that definition, this is about your customer experience across the board. So you want to do it effectively, try and centralize the data as much as possible. Now, thankfully, data storage is very affordable these days. It's the querying of the data that is expensive, but you have an opportunity to centralize all of your data in a data lake, and everyone serves their insights from there. That is optimal. At the same time, we don't want to create another silo, so we have to make sure that new product analytics data is accessible for everyone in the organization. Strategy. Now, don't fall into the trap of trying to come up with the perfect strategy from day one or even day 100. So just like any product strategy, creating the strategy is an incremental process. I'm going to start small, start with something that you already understand reasonably well, or start with a team or a little pilot project. Start somewhere manageable and grow from there. But at the same time, make sure this is a cohesive strategy. There's no point in replicating the data that the marketing team is tracking about getting people through the door. We want to understand the complete customer journey. And so your strategy has to be feeding into that cohesive approach, and not just look at some small parts of the customer journey. Tools. Now here, even though this is a pretty new field, there's already a bunch of products on the market, of tools on the market. So depending on your team's kind of maturity or constraints, what are your technical skills, what are your data skills in the team, what's the time you have available, and what's also the budget that you have available. There's a lot to choose from. When you go ahead and choose a tool, I think there's two things that are important. One is this continuity. So we want to track data and get insights continuously, not campaign-based. So not like a Google Analytics or a marketing campaign kind of tool, where you set it up specifically around an event. The product analytics tools should be continuous. And also they should be collaborative. So this is, again, feeding into the not creating silos. We want everyone to get on board with product analytics. So we'll have to be able to share dashboards and insights and have other people provide their input. Metrics. Now, that could be a whole talk in itself. Metrics are super specific to your organization and to your product. So I'm not going to give you the answer of you just need this one metric and it will magically happen. But I do give you some pointers here as well, with some derived from some common mistakes, I guess, that people are making. So remember, product analytics are about figuring out how to improve your customer's experience. So your metrics have to be customer focused. Growing the business's revenue isn't going to help your customer. So, and those financial metrics, those operational metrics, they will be tracked anyway. The marketing metrics will be tracked anyway. Those teams won't stop doing what they're doing. We want to have new metrics that are customer focused. So make sure that this metric is telling the story about your customer experience. And the second part is probably even harder. And this is about ensuring that the metrics is understood and applicable across your whole organization, across the whole company. So not just in the product team or the product engineering teams, but by everyone. Everyone in the company should know how they can contribute on to improving this metric. So famously, there was the story about Facebook in the early days, where they figured out that once a new Facebook user had added 7 friends, I think 7 friends within the first 30 days, that's when they knew they would stick around. And now this is a metric that's very easy to understand, and everyone can, even in, I don't know, like in customer support teams or in legal teams, in everywhere else in the organization, knows what they can do to contribute to that. So avoid the 3-4 letter acronyms. Try and figure out a metric that is easy to understand. And it kind of leads into the last part. You have to tell the story. Providing a fancy dashboard with a lot of great graphs is not enough. As a product analyst or as a product manager doing product analytics, what you are really doing is providing data literacy as a service. So you have to tell the story of the data, the story of your customer engaging with your product and service via the data. And you'll have to make sure this is a real story. Some real examples are fantastic, but also it's an evolving story. So your customer might behave this way today, but then different tomorrow. And so continuously telling these stories and helping people understand the data is absolutely critical to the success of your analytics being adopted widely, and getting that buy-in, getting that commitment, moving away from the intuition and using data to generate your insights and hypotheses. Now, let's have a look at some of the cool things you can do, some of the outcomes and use cases, and how to answer those many questions that we have about our customers and about our products. So user flows, user journeys, that's the obvious one. We want to understand exactly what our customers are doing. It's also one of the hardest ones. So we'll have all this data, but actually putting it together in a cohesive journey, it's pretty tricky. So difficult one to start with, I would say, but definitely a worthwhile one to work towards. Now, funnels are kind of a part of that, and that's maybe a little bit easier to do, and because we can already lean on some of the marketing teams' work potentially. But yeah, we want to understand at which points do customers convert, what exactly do they do around that time, and also where do they drop off in an onboarding flow, and like what's stopping them from moving on. Customer characteristics. This is about understanding exactly who our customers are. So often we have segments that we're getting from the business side, but they might not be reflecting our real customers. So customer characteristics will help us create a whole new set of segments that might make more sense for that personalized experiences within our product, and that together with the business segmentation can provide a much richer picture. Aha moments, some of you might have heard of. So that's, I guess, less common. But that's really about finding those actions that customers are taking that make them go, aha, yeah, this is what I've been looking for. Or even better, I wasn't looking for this, but it's awesome, and I'll definitely keep using it. So the less poetic way of looking at it is product qualified leads, but product qualified leads are a fantastic way of collaborating with your sales team, giving your sales team some pointers towards these customers have been doing these things, and we know when they do those things, they are really likely to convert. And you should really reach out to them and engage with them and steer them towards that. So B2B companies, this is pretty important. And similarly, retention analysis, retention hooks are what keeps customers coming back and keep using your product. So also pretty important if your focus, your business goal is around retention. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, churn. Of course, we want to understand what's happening with customers who churn. And once we have enough data tracked there and we know what customers are doing, we can start looking for patterns that will allow us to, make some prediction about the likelihood of somebody churning, and kind of similar to the product qualified leads, know, okay, if customers are doing these things or not doing these things, then chances are they're going to churn, so we can actually do something about that before it happens. Personalized experience, we talked about. This is about when you really understand your customer segments, you can create individual journeys, provide different resources for them, make sure they get their value quicker. And then finally, understanding general trends of your customer behavior across the board. We're in different specific areas, seeing how behavior is changing, and then of course the holy grail, being able to forecast how your customer behavior is changing and being a step ahead, preparing for it to make sure that customers stay around. Now, finally, oh no, wait, I forgot this one. Yes, thank you to Amplitude. I copied this graph from them. So Amplitude have one of the most mature products on the market for product analytics. They also have a lot of resources online if you want to learn more. I'm a big fan, and that's why I took this visualization, because I think it shows some of those outcomes of product analytics quite well, the journey that customers are taking, and then the different kind of touch points where you might want to be asking those questions about what's happening. Of course, there's going to be lots and lots and lots of different versions of this journey depending on your customer type and also, the point in time. But it gives you an idea of how this might look, not just line graphs and bar charts and pie charts, but you can really have visualizations of your customer journey, which is much easier to understand, I think. Now we're going into the caveats. So as the final content slide here, I'll have to leave you with a couple of things just to be aware of as you're going on your product analytics journey. Firstly, being reading data is difficult. It's not everybody knows how to interpret different types of graphs and statistics. And it's very easy to make mistakes. Particularly, it's very easy to confirm your own bias. If you already know what you want to see in the data, then you will find that. You will read it in the data. So you have to constantly challenge yourself and challenge others that you're reading the data and correctly, you're deriving the correct insights from from your dashboards, from what you're seeing. Secondly, of course, we all want to see our metrics get better over time. And we want to have positive experiences when we're looking at the dashboards and when we're sharing the data, when we're presenting the data. But beware of vanity metrics that are just there to serve that purpose. So if your metric isn't solving a customer problem or isn't driving a strategy forward, then it's not useful. It won't inform your strategy. It won't help you make decisions. So something like new users per day or daily active users isn't really telling you very much about your customer experience. It's maybe telling you something about your business, but it's not telling you if these customers are there because they really like the product or maybe something else is going on. So dig a little bit deeper on your metrics, on the customer experience. Thirdly, nothing happens in isolation. You might have all of the data and lots of dashboards and tracking everything, but your customers are living in the real world. Other things are happening in the real world, and they might be impacting what they're doing. So just be aware of other things that are happening in your customers' lives, in the world in general, and how that might impact your data before you drive any rash conclusions there. We had a couple of big world events recently, and they've definitely impacted customer behavior. So always look at that together. Now, I mentioned that a few times, but I just mention it again because it's a common trap. Magic insights don't just emerge. Product analytics is hard work, and you have to do it continuously in order to really get those insights. And actually, if you've been doing it for a while and you go back, you might get more insights that you missed in the beginning. So it is really an ongoing work, and you have to put the time and effort in. At the same time, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just like we talked about the simpler metrics. You don't need very many. Start with a handful. Don't try and do everything. Start with a little bit. Do it consistently, continuously, and you'll get those insights. And you can make some hypotheses, experimentation, test it, challenge your metrics, improve them, change them, but don't try and do everything all at once. And then finally, always make sure the data that you're using is yours to use, that you do have the consent from customers, that you're only tracking what you really need. Just because you can track everything doesn't mean you should. So make sure that you're respecting data privacy, data sovereignty rules, and so on, and don't keep the data just because you can. And that is it. So I hope you had a chance to eat your lunch and drink your coffee, because now I'd really love to hear from you what you are doing with product analytics. What are your challenges? Did you get some really great unexpected insights or shocking results when your hypothesis was totally off? Anybody would like to share a story? I don't know how that will work technically about it, but I'm really keen to hear from everyone else. And of course, any kind of questions that you might have now, or disagreements about anything I said, some feedback, now would be the time. Over to you, Bharat.
I think Bharat's audio is not working, so I'll probably take it up. Are you able to talk, Bharat? No, I think we can't hear you. Can you hear Bharat? No, yeah.
Oh, it says it's muted. Okay.
Uh, yeah, I think. So I think it was such a fascinating session, Bianca, and too much to learn from. Nobody can actually come and speak their stories, but they can actually type Their
Hi, am
question
I
was
audible now?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So Bianca, thank you. Thanks a lot for that great presentation. And while you were giving the presentation, there are a couple of things which hit me directly is about dashboarding. And yeah, I am presently working with a lot of stakeholders around dashboarding. So I just have one question: what would, according to you, will be a call out when you are creating a dashboard or churning those requirements, and what I'm trying to give for the for my stakeholders that the dashboard should tell a story. Yeah. So how do we limit on, what are those places where you could miss out and create something which is not required? So that would be my question.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, I love dashboards. Dashboards, you need dashboards, but you need them for you, right? Like for your work, for getting the insights to tell your story. So I would be hesitant to just, simply share a dashboard with somebody who doesn't know exactly what they're looking at. But instead, maybe just pick out one or two things that you noticed, then tell the story and kind of explain how you see that on the dashboard. It really is a learning experience, and you'd be surprised by how many people are struggling understanding graphs correctly. And I mean, I did a degree in this, and I still, had to learn how to read these graphs properly. So I think that story is really important and really showing, hey, look, at this time, this customer segment, suddenly changed from doing this to doing that. This is how we see it in the data. Here is what it means. And this is now, this is some hypotheses that we're making. Whatever, we tweaked something in the UX. This seems to have created confusion. So let's do an experiment and see if we roll back, if the data goes back. So those kind of things.
Thank you, Bianca. I think I'll open the floor for the audience to ask the questions.
There is a question already. Uh, there's a question from Rapid Origin. If working in a global team, any advice in overcoming the separation of data's usage from different departments?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because people are very precious about the data, and then you have to be careful around, who's got access and how they can access it. So if you have a chance to start creating a centralized data lake, and as a global organization, they might have Snowflake or something like this already, where all the data can be stored, then that would be a good business practice because you own your data and you can hold on to it. And if Google Analytics decides to switch to a whole new version, you don't have to worry about losing your data. But I think that'll be a long-term kind of working towards it. You could try and replicate your data in a data lake and kind of set up a synchronization. So you do have that one source where everything is held, but nobody has to change how they're doing work in their departments. But here, I think it would be really interesting to hear from some companies who are already doing that. What is the best kind of course of action? I'm doing this for an organization or with an organization with a team at the moment in New Zealand, but it's a not-for-profit, and so things work a little bit differently to a global operating business.
Thank you, Bianca. I also have a question. It's easier, like you said, it's easy to get bias and make data tell stories you want data to tell, and I have seen this bias coming in a lot of times in my experience. Any tips and tricks how to avoid that bias?
Um, that's a really good question. Um, I think a good way of doing it is it's like check your bias before you start. Before you've even done anything, if you go and see what am I actually expecting to see here, and then you can note that down. and make sure that when you're looking at the results later on, that you're checking if you're just wanting to see that or if it's really there. But I mean, I'd love to hear from some experts about this, how to avoid bias, like making sure you've got, of course, clean data that is as unbiased as possible, feeding in there. Make sure if you want to look at data globally, you should make sure that you're getting data from globally if you're deriving conclusions there, those kind of things. But the harder stuff is what's in your head, what you're expecting to see.
Yeah, nice. I try giving the accountability to some of my team members to see, like, I hope this is not biased, just
Yeah,
getting more times. I think that could work.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good one. Or if you have a way of presenting the data in two different ways, that kind of, but one can be read in one extreme and one can be read in another extreme. Maybe you test it there. Or showing it to somebody who is really not involved, who is outside your organization and doesn't have um, any kind of weight in it. That could be another one. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Wait. Yeah, nice. Do we have any other questions from the audience? I think people are happy with the lunch. They enjoyed the session. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was an experiment, right? Running the session at lunchtime as a first,
Yeah.
and also using this technology here is a first. So I'm glad that it worked. I'm curious to hear feedback, how people liked having a lunchtime session.
Yeah. I wanted to send a feedback form as well. I will share it with you too. I will send this to all the participants here. I'll send the feedback form.
Yeah, awesome.
And yeah.
And actually, that's a really good reminder to just pop up my last slide here as well. So anybody who would like to get in touch, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me by email if you have some follow-on questions. I am also currently doing a bit of contracting consulting work and coaching in product analytics, and of course my number one topic, product ops. So if anyone is keen to chat some more or to work with me or just have some more questions later on, shoot me a message.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bianca, for making this time for us and helping us with all everything about product analytics. It was really really helpful. Uh, I
Awesome.
think you
I'm glad to
you
hear
should
that.
have your lunch. Yes.
Yes, yes. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for everyone who joined in today, or also will watch it later on YouTube.
Yes, this can be watched later on YouTube on Mind the Product channel. Awesome. Thank you, Bianca. See you all around for the next meetup.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.